Hello, it's good to have you join us again. This is your program, Close Flow, coming to you from NTA2 Lagos Network Center. My pleasure to be here with you, to be sure that you are all waiting to get to meet our guests on the show today and find out again what is trending in the Nigerian space. Well, a lot has been said about the prospect for Nigeria to become one of the greatest nations on the face of the earth. Now, as it were, the continuous question or the recurrent question or recurrent decimal is that why is it just a potential? Why is it that in our own lifetime that particular expectation about this country has never been realized or come to fruition? So we are again with some distinguished Nigerians who are going to be cross-examining and investigating why it is that Nigeria seems to be just on a trail or off the track on what so many people expect that this country should be. And where are we coming from? We are looking into the 2023 general elections again with a review of what we have done, what we need to do, or what we are not probably doing appropriately. Now, for the records, we know that only about 27% of nearly 95 million voters, nearly 27% of 95 million registered voters who should have participated in this election came out on Saturday. So, were people banned from coming out? Were they scared of coming out? Were they uncertain about coming out? Or were they just a little bit apprehensive of what it is like to be on the street to go and cast their vote? Yet, we know that voting is part or critical to citizenship. We are saying that it's a call to duty. That is what as it were, the Constitution says about your own responsibility as a Nigerian. Then you need to come out and actually decide who should rule the country. You need to come out and honor that, yes, you chose that person who is going to rule the country. That is what the Constitution says. So why didn't we come out to do what is needful? Our guests today, distinguished Nigerians, two of them, because we believe that it's a double-edged sword that can probably help us to scrape off all the elements which are not appropriate in this nation-building effort. So they'll be speaking to us about how we can overcome the apathy of voters, especially when it comes to election time. Voters may come out to register before the election, but when the election comes, they now become like resident native doctors in their homes. Now, so we need to find out from our guests why that is so. Is this something to do with our psychological makeup, or is it because we are not sure that all the umpires are actually on the table with the right parameters? I don't have the answers. Our guests, they have the answers. They are the experts. So let me get you to see them. It's a tip of the iceberg. My producer has already packaged their profile, so you get to meet them and see exactly how their expertise will now be borrowed to see how we can change the story of Nigeria. Stay with us.
Your eyes, your smile are all begging me to take you home tonight. Now reading page 3. Experience unlimited super-fast internet access from Intel 4G. Intel. Live more. Experience unlimited super-fast internet access from Intel 4G. Intel. Live more.
So there you have it. We have two distinguished Nigerians, excellent in their own different fields. We have Prof, my very good friend. His name is Martin, but I like to add S to it so that it's equal to my own name too. And of course I have Professor with me, who actually I happen to have been the only one who voted for her when she came out to contest the election in 2015. You're both welcome to this floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
So where do I start from? Should I start from KOWA party or should I start from Conscience party?
There is a professor here, please.
All right, so Professor Remi, let me start with you. Now, so the records say to us that barely 27% of Nigerians, 93 or 95 million registered to vote, and just merely 27% came up. What could have happened? Can you guess what could have happened?
I believe that, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your program again. It's nice to be back in NTA.
Thank you very much.
A long time, and thank you for the good work that you are doing.
Thank you.
What I'm thinking is that our politicians actually prefer low voter turnout.
Amazing.
I believe that when you have fewer people, maybe it would be easier to manipulate. If you are bent on rigging, on disturbing the elections and so on and so forth, the fewer people you have outside to contend with, the better for you. So I'm thinking that it is actually a deliberate strategy.
I see.
We also know, for instance, that the politicians tend to focus on voters who are likely to come out. And so they prepare for them. You know, all these things about stomach infrastructure and things like that, they're targeting a particular, group of voters
Within the community.
Is those ones who can be swayed by, giving them money or whatever, or promising them certain things. So that's what, all these things are consistent with what we see, that the middle class, the elites tend not to,
Be part of this.
come out. So I'm just thinking that it's only a calculated attempt.
Okay, let's borrow from the brain of our fellow of this transport. Now, so you think the Prof is showing us an insight?
Yes, clearly, what you have said is a big factor, and she's not the first to say it. If we were listening, the former governor of Cross River has said it, that the less people that come out, the easier it is for them to rig elections. Donald Duke said that publicly, not privately. So we're not listening. That's why we missed that. So that's only one of the factors. The first thing I want to say, there are very many factors. Yeah. The factor from Mr. A in Oshodi may not be the factor for Mr. B in Egbe. So there are very many factors that contribute to the low voter turnout. First is that you talked about the 93.5 million. Out of the 93.5 million, only 87.2 million got the PVCs. So the numbers are coming down. So exactly, numbers are coming down. Yeah. So you have to take out the factor of those who could not collect PVCs. And I know that the media for once, because they say I criticize them all the time, they tried with that. Collection of PVCs. Yes. I mean, they had people at many of the local governments who they were monitorized. And yes, so, but you can see that even with all that effort, we had that difference, 93.5 minus 87.2. Yes. So that's a significant number. Yes. Of people who could not get their PVCs even after they had registered. So that's number one. Number two is the trust deficit. If my vote will not count, why should I waste my time to go and vote? I can stay at home and wash my clothes. I can watch the movie that I wanted to watch for the last 3 weeks. I haven't had time. So I can read one book, maybe, because I've read some of Prof's books. But this last one, I didn't know about the last one. So maybe it's time to read it. So we'll talk about that. So people now think that it's a waste of time. The election always gets rigged. And whether we like it or not, we need to admit that. Because if we don't admit it, it gets admitted for us internationally. Internationally, it gets admitted for us. So we become the only fools to our own selves. Everybody knows it. The evidence is public. So the trust deficit is a big factor. Why should I go and waste my time? Now, there's the issue of violence. Yes. And this violence, whether it's a threat or not, it's there. There is issue of violence. You remember the Sumile woman who had that, and that's a woman. Yeah. That's a woman. You have given a permanent scar on the face. If it's a man, we can manage. So why will a woman put herself through that risk? So there's the case of the copper who was beaten and later died in hospital. Yes. So we cannot pretend and say it's just threats. People have died in this business. So there is the issue of the violence. And this happens each time after the security officials and chiefs guarantee us that there will be no violence, that they will take control, they will dominate the environment, everybody is free, come out and vote. Now, when you talk about the trust deficit and talk about the violence, you also have to talk about INEC inefficiencies and mischief. We'll come back to that. Let's look at other areas now. So how do we now therefore build or impact on Nigerians the healthy mental and emotional dispositions which they need to employ to take part in this kind of public service? Because what you are just explaining to us right now, sitting back at home, you are saying to yourself, I cannot risk it. You are saying to yourself, there is no need. You are saying, so how do we change that? How do we? Yeah.
Let me quickly add something to the points that he has raised, because voter apathy actually begins way back from when you are even trying to register. Look at the queues. Look at the trauma that people went through just in order to register. I mean, people went there maybe 3-4 times or more, staying on the queues for a long period of time and so on and so forth. All of that contributes to a low turnout eventually on the election day. We know for sure that in these last elections, many more people were interested. That was why people took all the trouble they did to try and get their PVCs. And like my brother has said, several did not get it. In fact, the first statistics is the several who did not even get to register in the first place before, those who then could not collect their PVCs, and then those who could not transfer from one location to the other. For instance, my husband was trying to transfer because we were living in Osun State, before, and now moved to Lagos. But during the time when the Osun elections were holding, which was the time for registration and transfers and things like that, they said if you had an Osun State card, yes, you could not do anything. You could not transfer because Osun State was blocked. I mean, and I think this ties in with the question that you asked. INEC just has to be more performing
than it is now.
Than it is now. You have to make the system more convenient, for people in terms of how long it takes you to get, this card. In fact, people are starting to wonder, do we really need this card? Exactly. Do we really need this PVC? Wouldn't a photo ID do? Here we are, we've spent a long time registering NIN and things like that. We have BVN, we have this, we have that. What is all this complication? So we must find a way to make voting, more attractive
and very friendly.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I like that, Prof. Thank you very much for that erudition. Now, let me come back to my fellow. But again, you have said it. So, do you think that the Reformed Electoral Act, do you think we have enough structures in that Reformed Electoral Act that would have allowed INEC to perform better than what we are saying right now? Are you sure the Act itself?
That's what I said about we're not listening, because if you take it on a broader scale,
yes.
When Chief Rotimi Williams, SAM, was alive, he was challenged. You led the Constitutional Drafting Committee, your constitution is not working. The country is full of trouble. He gave an answer. So the problem is not the Constitution. The problem is the operator of the Constitution. And I agree with him. Because one of the Lord Chancellors of the UK, maybe 2 centuries ago, he said there's no way to deal with a dishonorable man.
There is no way to deal with a man that is dishonorable.
We will find a way to cheat you. There's no way. You can't put enough processes to deal with a dishonorable man. He is going to find a way to cheat you. So I agree with you, William. So let's address your specific question.
Yes.
I vote for 2 reasons. Or let me say, this last time, I went to vote for 2 reasons. First, trying to be a responsible citizen. I saw it as my duty. That's number 1. Number 2, I said, let me see how they read the beavers. Not reading. Let me see how they read the process. Yes. Let me see. No, I already read the process from INEC publication. But let me see how they're going to read this now. Because it looked foolproof. But that's when we're dealing with honorable people. When you're dealing with dishonorable people, the former Lord Chancellor said there's no way to stop a dishonorable man. So that was the second reason why I went to vote for this last election. But normally I vote in every election as a matter of duty. And I also want to have the moral authority to challenge the crooks and say you didn't do it right. Because if I didn't vote, I will lose my moral authority. I also want to have that moral authority to say, we went to vote, this happened, you didn't do it right. So, but I said, now, with these beavers, let me see how they cheat it. And because I'm a politician and I have contested many elections.
Yes.
I ran for Senate in 2007. I aspired for president in 2011.
Yes.
I ran for president in 2015 again. So, I have a lot of experience with these things. So, my mind told me that, forget the direct transmission, they dare not. That was exactly what they did. You're still transmitting results today. Yes. When was the election? You're still transmitting. You're saying you have transmitted over 170,000 out of 176. How many days after? You said it was going to be real time. And you said where there was no network, you will transmit from the returning station, which cannot be more than 24 hours. So the whole thing is deceitful. That's why you remember I started with trust deficit.
Yes.
I'm listening to Fola, but I cannot believe him. I'm listening, I understand what he said, but I cannot believe him. So INEC tells us one thing and another. And then people see this thing and say it's a waste of time. It's a charade. Why should I waste my time? In addition, you know when I talked about INEC inefficiency, we'll come back to that.
Yes.
For example, I go to the polling station about 10:30 a.m. I left about 8:30 night. Yes, results have not been written. Now, assume I was 20 years older. Will I stay through all that?
And then the response to the reaction.
So when you're talking about disenfranchisement, you need to look at it. There are many things disenfranchising us. And as far as I'm concerned, it is deliberate. Because you cannot come to me and tell me there's no perfect system, and we have rigged every election since 1960. And if you challenge me, I will give you the evidence.
To date?
Yes, every. When you the president election by colonial master was rigged. Nigerian democracy was founded on rigging by colonial master.
So you mean you have mastered how to rig elections?
Okay, no, I think it's not a culture. But every election has to be rigged.
Okay, now, so let's come how we are going to change that narrative. Because that's very critical now. We're saying if you don't get the footprint right, then you're going to be repeating the same thing. That's what I was trying to say here. Now, but we have the Information Act. And we can use the Information Act, for instance, to do fact checking. Just what you just said right now. So, Prof, if that is the case, why don't we have standing national institutions which should be like a safeguard or a monitoring spirit, as it were, to govern what we are talking about? So if INEC is going to be functioning properly, shouldn't we have a superintendent body to look at what INEC is doing?
Indeed, that would seem like the proper thing to do. However, one could even ask, why should the chairman of INEC, for instance, be handpicked by one person, by the president, who at times is also a candidate of in the same election. In the same election, when he's appointing the referee. So you are the one naming the referee, like you said.
Yes.
But you are a candidate.
A participant.
A participant. You know, so all these, how we came about this structure, this system, it really is quite interesting. These are not the best practices, and there is an abundance of you know,
capable hands,
better systems, better run systems that we can learn from. So I think we need to go back to the fundamentals in terms of, you know, what is right and proper. I believe that what Martin has just said is important about the character of the people who are running
or conducting elections
affairs. Exactly. You know, so his mind already was like, you know, let's see how the was going to be, and then they fell for it. They just went ahead. You know how wonderful it would have been for him to have been so pleasantly surprised. Exactly. You know that, oh wow, so we can really, you know, carry out free affairs. Yes, we say something, we actually go ahead and do it. You know.
Okay. Somebody also has said. Let me thank you, Prof. Then somebody also said that why is ad hoc? Why is INEC ad hoc? Why is it not a standing institution? Why is it?
You can't have all that staff, 1.something million staff. You can't keep them on the payroll for 4 years. So there are ad hoc staff. There are permanent staff. So you can't say all of them are ad hoc, but you can't have a polling unit officer that just sit down doing nothing for 4 years. No. I forgot to tell you, I was a polling unit officer in 1993 in Port Harcourt, okay, in the election of Abiola to Tofa.
And some of the things you saw there are still being repeated.
No, because it is simple. When you do not have ulterior motives, when you are not deliberately corrupt, because go and check it. Anywhere when you see inefficiency, suspect corruption. And you will find inefficiency is not natural. It's abnormal. And what brings in the inefficiency is, okay, yes, you come here to NTA, I'm the accountant, you have cleaned the environment, you submit an invoice, I say that's your year for now. Then I put the invoice underneath. Then you're saying that the contract says you should pay in 30 days. It is 40 days, you are not paid. Then I say, okay, let him come and pay himself. So that's exactly what's going on.
And it's everywhere.
That's exactly because the leadership promotes it. That's the only reason. Otherwise, if the leadership does not tolerate it, nobody can do it. But the leadership actively promotes it. So you have every system, because if you look theoretically at this beaver system,
yes,
it's impossible to read. It's impossible to read.
Yes.
Now, if you want to know how bad this thing these things are, go and look at the IF portal. They have secondary results posted in Rivers.
Yes.
The results they posted by themselves is different from what was announced. Go and look at it. So we can't continue pretending, because the media keeps trying to cover up things and make it look like it's nice. And we're looking stupid. Because even foreigners of the world. Yes, even foreigners know. Financial Times are probably deeply flawed. Financial Times wrote that they were in Abuja when carried away the ballot box. Armed people. Then you go and go to the United Nations and say you are fighting insecurity. This is ridiculous. Who are you talking to?
Okay, now let's see how we can channel this disappointment, because obviously what the fellow is saying here is that we cannot continue to pretend that this is not right. So are we saying, Prof, that democracy cannot be fully established in Nigeria, or are we saying that we are missing some critical element of what can be democratic or to help us to overcome issues that he has raised? For instance, ideology. Do you think if you have ideological convictions, then democratic processes can be fully entrenched?
Well, I don't believe that Nigerians are a different set of people, of human beings.
Thank you.
You know, the people tend to say, oh, but this is Nigeria, as if we were not regular human beings. I mean, we want all the things that human beings want. You want security, food on your table, and so on and so forth. You know, basic things. So we are normal
humans.
People. We are normal humans. Democracy can work, of course, in Nigeria, but unfortunately, we undermine the system ourselves, or we allow some group of people to subvert the entire system, you know, and there should be enough of us to stand up to resist that. But what I'm thinking is that when you have a deliberately impoverished people, you know, recently people have been talking about, you know, the weaponization of poverty, you know, and this new term of multi-dimensional poverty and all of that. It gives people more things to have to worry about than voting, I think.
Oh yes, because it's too much infrastructure.
Yeah, because just surviving and just see how many things they threw at us just before the elections. They threw fuel shortage at us. They threw the Naira problem, you know, at us and things. So it's like keep them occupied with surviving, and then they won't have
time of elections.
Participate in election, it requires some kind of leisure, because it's like you sorted out your most fundamental challenges. But even then, a lot of people did want to come out during this last elections, and I believe that maybe in actual fact, more than 27 people came out. The question is, were they able to vote? Were they captured? Were they recorded? You know, and so on and so forth. You know, so I believe that what we have to do is to be mindful of the human beings that we put in charge of our affairs. And I think that was what a lot of people wanted to do this time around, to change
the narrative.
Okay,
all right. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, my Obefi. It's good to have two of them, and you can see how the excellencies of their knowledge, their expertise actually are being put on the table. We are going to open telephone lines so that also you can be part of the conversation wherever you are all over the face of the world, so that you can also add or subtract for what they're saying, or probably divide what they're saying, and let's have the way forward for Nigeria and for a nation that is expected to be one of the greatest on the face of the earth. Stay with us, we shall be back.
We must dilate the eyes, we have cataract, we look at the back of the eyes, we have glaucoma, you know, we do a full workup for them. We remember that government showing children with their eyes, remember with our children. Can be looking deeper than we ever looked before to ensure that we close all the loopholes. Every edition is an arresting conversation with distinguished Nigerians from various strata of the society, bearing their minds on how
how we can realize the Nigeria of our dreams. Join us live on Close Flow, Monday, every week here on NT2 Lagos Network Center. Close Flow. The conversation is about you.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Quickly, let me give you the telephone numbers so you can be part of this conversation. Because on Close Flow, the conversation with our distinguished Nigerians is always about you as a citizen. If you have your WhatsApp ready, please, you have a dedicated line for your WhatsApp text messages to us, and that is 080-2038-4130. 080-2038-4130. That's for WhatsApp, dedicated. Don't send SMS on that line. If you try SMS, it's just not going to go. But for your SMS, just in case you don't have data, now use 080-6350-8434. 080-6350-8434. That's for your SMS. Just text us so that Prof and of course my engineer can then look at what you're saying and see how to help us navigate this journey. Now, Prof, I love what you have done so far. How we have examined exactly where we are and what we need to do. Now, some elements are also alarmed in a way that the social media has now become the fourth estate of the realm. That the traditional media can no longer, as it were, feed the people or reach out to the people appropriately or efficiently or effectively. So people now seem to have drifted or migrated or jackpot to social media, and therefore they are no longer interested in what someone like us, for instance, are doing here on NTA. They rather go to social media, even if it's falsified information. How do we deal with that?
Well, why has that been the case? I believe that it's because of this lost trust in whatever seems to be like either government institutions in general or institutions that are perceived to be supportive of the establishment.
To be biased.
Yeah. Secondly, people have been longing to have a voice. Unfortunately, we are running a system that has not given opportunities for expressing our opinion to the people. For instance, we don't have referenda in Nigeria. We cannot hold a referendum on any issue to say, okay, this is this is what we would like to see. I belong to a group called Fix Politics Initiative. Yes. We have we've submitted a request to the National Assembly saying, please, in the review of the Constitution, yes, just give us the right to hold a referendum. So that issues that touch our lives can be brought on the street level, presented to Nigerians. Would you rather this or that? And we all vote and take a decision. It happens in so many places. Participatory government. So I believe that it's our inability to do that, or not inability, refusal really, by the leadership, of the country, that feeds and fuels all these, so-called fake news, and the government goes gung-ho on fake news and so on. If you don't provide us with authentic news, if you don't provide a way of harvesting our opinions, don't blame us for using what is available to us.
Okay, you want to add to that, or you want to collaborate, or you want to...
Well, the platforms, the mainstream platforms are also on social media, so the problem is not social media. I mean, the problem, like she has said, is the authenticity of information and the usefulness. Because if NBC keeps insisting that correct information is inciting, and then all the mainstream media want to comply, and then we can't get correct information, and there is a group that is willing to publish, because we go to the group and get the information. So that's what it is about. I mean, the people on social media didn't bribe anybody to come to their platforms. I mean, TV and everybody else is on the social media. So why are people not coming to you? My friend told me he cannot watch NTA again. I told you that he's going to have a health problem.
Okay, because you cannot get current information from...
No, not current. He's saying, what are they saying?
But like what you're saying right now is not current or not?
Well, I'm saying what I know to be right. And I need to be factual about this, because if we continue being nice about it, we'll not fix it. And you can see the deterioration. And this deterioration is not in one sector or in one aspect of our lives. It's a comprehensive deterioration. Deterioration in values, deterioration in the economy, deterioration in security, deterioration in elections. It is comprehensive.
Okay, all right. I like that. We'll find a way to now deal with that, because that's the next question on the table. It says, why are expressions of differences in Nigeria prone to violent responses, especially political issues or political groups?
That is a big issue. And I even wonder whether it's not, my mind is going in two directions. Maybe our education.
It is a factor. It's a fact.
Yes.
It is a factor.
The inability to take ideas and divorce the ideas from the person. And you might be able to say, you know, I don't like you one bit, but what you are saying is the right.
Just like what you just said.
Yeah. You know, so it seems as if we conflate ideas with the individual. So if you have a different opinion from me, then you are against me.
You're an enemy.
You are an enemy. And we rise up in arms against, you know, whereas that ability to handle ideas and to have discussions about you know, objective, dispassionate discussions about ideas, you know, so and for it to get to the level of assassinating somebody who has a different opinion. Because elections really is about judgment. Okay, I believe that this person is better than this person.
Yes.
So what is so difficult in that? The democracy says when the different people have expressed their opinions, those the majority will carry the vote.
Yes.
Why do you have to kill anybody?
To be the majority.
But it's also because of and I think we should touch on this very important issue, which is that politics is too lucrative in Nigeria, far too lucrative.
Oh,
so that because you become a politician
and you become rich
overnight. And so because the stakes are so high, people are willing to do anything.
Okay, so yes, you're a public analyst. She has laid it on the table. So are we saying to ourselves that is the nature of politics in Nigeria, or?
There is nowhere where you're not going to have people get angry if you cross certain lines. There's nowhere. I mean, like she said, I mean, I agree with all the factors, especially the one of education, because this violence is more among the less educated. That's very clear. You're not going to see Prof carrying a 2x2 to come and strike anybody. It's not going to. You're not going to.
Neither would you do that.
You're not going to see it. So it's also literacy level is an issue, because literacy level helps you to understand issues better. And
objectively.
Yes, even if it's not objective, because all of us have our biases. whether we like it or not, we can't pretend. But what I'm saying is, at what point do you
go overboard,
buy a gun to go and shoot someone who disagrees with you, or to go and carry the ballot box so that he cannot vote? At what point? You won't see any educated, employed person doing this. So, and every society has dregs. In the US, there are many homeless people who sleep on the streets.
Yeah.
So those kind of dregs, you don't expect the same level of behavior from them as middle-class people. So they have their typical reaction or very violent temperaments. So that's one. But you see, when you do a root cause analysis, you will come back. And we have done it before, and we have done it very well. It was even done for us. Chinua Achebe did it in 1983 and put it in a book.
Yes.
Anybody can go and read it. The problem with Nigeria is the leadership. But we want to cover the leadership because we're also looking for favors from that same leadership. Back to the corruption. Why are you looking for a favor? It's because you don't merit it. If you merit it, you don't need a favor. I was listening to the former Minister for Foreign Affairs and the same guy was a representative of Singapore in the United Nations.
Yes.
And he was saying the 3 secrets of the success of Singapore.
Yeah.
The Lee Kuan Yew success.
Yes.
From third world to first world.
Yes.
He said merit.
Yes. Meritocracy.
Yes. He talked about pragmatism.
Yes.
Do what works.
And
Stop
honesty.
following ideologies and theories. Do what works. Because in Nigeria,
What functions?
yes, in Nigeria, if you say a classroom has collapsing roof, what should be the simple solution? Fix the roof. The first thing, they award a contract to the minister's wife for a conference on bad roofs in classrooms.
Or leakages.
And then you waste the money that you're supposed to use to fix the roof. So it's deliberate. So then he talked about the value system, anti-corruption, honesty. He called that one honesty H. So now, when I was listening to him, I told myself, in this my country, Nigeria, we're doing everything exactly the opposite. The 3 key things. And this do not require a professorial qualification or a PhD thesis to know. These things are simple, commonsensical, and honest illiterates can understand. Okay, you want to play football now. Nigeria is going to play against Ghana. Then you go and put me to play number 9, top striker. You want to lose. You want to lose. But if you put Victor Osimhen, you want to win. But if you put me, you surely want to lose. But you say you want to put me. Onovo is my friend. I'm the one.
And he will settle me. And he will settle me.
Let me put Onovo. Then that means you want to lose. Then you're surprised. Then you call a panel of why did we lose? What's that? We're just making a fool of ourselves. When I looked at the 3 criteria he gave, they were commonsensical. Any honest child can identify those things.
And
then I looked at Nigeria, I said, we're doing exactly the opposite. And then, why do I blame the media? When we want to talk about this is wrong, they say, oh, you know, these people are in power, you know, you have to respect the office. Huh? If the office is respectable, he won't be able to do what he's doing.
But again, that's a matter of disposition. It's not necessarily the media, as it were, in terms of
statute. Nigeria has a constitution. That constitution says it is the responsibility of the mass media to hold the government accountable to the people. It didn't say it's the responsibility of opposition parties. That constitution is very clear. Let the media play that responsibility and release us. Let them play their role. Let them hold the government accountable. In Lagos State, for example, the current governor has spent about 5 trillion since he came to office.
And yet,
show me the evidence of 5 trillion. Please. Please. People are dying. This thing is not funny. Show me the evidence of 5 trillion.
Okay.
Where's the new road? So what are these issues? The media has this information.
The Lagos State government, I'm sure, will be able to answer that. That will not be part of...
No, the media has to question it.
Yes.
Because that's what the Constitution says.
The media will question it.
It is not Professor Sonaiya that said it. It's the Constitution.
We know. But what we are saying here is this, for the purpose of getting people to lose this apathy towards voting. Yes, you have already tried to, as it were, classify some of the reservations that we have. So mistrust. They can't trust those who are actually given the opportunity to run the place. But what we are looking at again is this, because you looked at life and leadership. Now, if you're looking at leadership and life in, let's say, peculiar to the African continent, do you think we have something that is actually holding us back from borrowing the simple, commonsensical things you just mentioned about honesty, pragmatism. You know, why merit? Why do we find it so difficult to employ these life value adding processes to what we do?
I keep wondering myself. These are basic questions that people have been asking over and over again. What is wrong with the Africans? What is wrong with the black man? And so on and so forth. And yet, you look around the world and you see Nigerians doing incredible stuff
outside of here.
Outside, I always say, if there is a group of people, let's say a group of 10 people, doing some amazing things somewhere, you are likely to find it. One Nigeria, at least amongst them. I believe that we owe the world an explanation, because we are recognized to be a gifted people and so on and so forth. How can probably among at least the most gifted people in the world be making such a fool of themselves, running their country aground? Something does not add up, and I think it's squarely to be placed at the level of leadership. Because we have defined leadership as not for the most qualified, not for the people with the best character, not for the people with the capacity, the competence, the 3 C's that everybody has been banding around during this election season. Yes. And constantly, does it not matter to us that we're having people among our leaders? There are people who have either some criminal records. Yes. You can't find their school certificates, no results, and things like that. What is it? Is this, what is supposed to be happening in a country that is, and at the same time, these same people are saying, we are aspiring to be this and that. It's fake. That's really the fake news.
That is the real authentic fake news.
You are doing the wrong stuff, and you are trying to convince us that it's not working.
Okay, well, she's spoken about what again is seemingly peculiar to the way we live as Nigerians. But again, you have mentioned things about the conscience and how maybe we should borrow from the Guardian if conscience is an open wound and only truth can heal it. But do we have the culture of truthfulness in the political space in Nigeria, or even in the question of relationship amongst all the ethnic groups in Nigeria? Do we have the question of truthfulness actually established in Nigeria?
Well, that's why I said we have gone through these routes before, and we know the answers. And even if I don't have any input, the answers are there. Achebe wrote the book. Soyinka has insisted that leadership is the principal problem. The former Justice Owais, former Chief Justice of the Nation, has insisted that leadership is the key problem. Just the same thing Achebe had written in 1983. So we know the problem, but we're avoiding it. Why do we want to avoid the problem and then we desire a solution? If we desire a solution, we should use the face. Why are we avoiding the clear problem? Prof has said it here. I mean, there are certain people who should not even aspire to leadership.
Who are not qualified.
Yes, they should not aspire because they don't qualify. Okay, if you don't have WAEC, why will you apply to be taken in a PhD program? It's the same thing, but it sounds funny to you now. But if it's politics, it's okay. You don't have WAEC, you aspire to be Nigeria's president. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Then you go out, you discuss with the kind of people like Lim Kwa Yu, people with those world-class kind of IQs, and then everything goes in their favor because you don't even understand what they're saying. So then you turn around and say, okay, it's God's fault. God did not bless us. Please, that's blasphemy. God has over-blessed Nigeria, like Prof said.
Yes.
And I agree with her. I've lived all around the world. I've lived and worked in Europe. I've lived and worked in the US. I've lived and worked here in Africa.
And you still live in Nigeria?
Yes, and I've been in Scandinavia.
And you still live in Nigeria?
So I can tell you clearly that these problems are so simple, but those who are benefiting from it, who are very few,
will not allow.
There are very few. So if we did our own role, like she said, if we played our own part, we should be able to overwhelm them, because all over the world there are bad people. There are more serial killers in the US than in Nigeria.
Okay, well that's...
And then the cost of this thing is higher than we want to admit.
Thank you.
The costs.
Yes, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
If I remember his name, I will mention. A former director of Army Information who has retired was on a program like this. And so he said Boko Haram is not a challenge, a general. He said Boko Haram is not a challenge to the Nigerian army. He's saying that now because he has retired. When he was talking to us, he wasn't saying that. He said Boko Haram is not a challenge to the Nigerian army.
But
that if the political leadership has sincerity of purpose, they will take care of Boko Haram.
okay,
They say Boko Haram has cost you nearly 3,000 soldiers. Dead.
Already.
Dead. With the widows and the fatherless children they have left behind.
Dependents.
Complicating these problems. So we can't get away with our lack of, with our irresponsibility. We think we're getting away with it. We are not getting away.
we are paying for it.
We are paying for it, and that is why it's accumulating to this point now where the whole place is stagnated.
Okay, well, my producer is saying that if I allow my fellow engineer to keep speaking, we are probably going to be here, and we may have to transport the next program to maybe another another channel.
That's okay.
So thank you so much, Professor, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get both of you to reapply to become president of Nigeria maybe at the next election.
Well, I can tell you why I didn't run now. I predicted that it won't be free and fair. And I wasn't going to waste my time.
Okay, all right.
That's why I didn't run. If I thought it would be free and fair, I would run.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Onovo. Thank you very much, Prof. We hope to have you again, maybe after the next election, maybe when we are doing the review of the results. We may probably ask two of you again to come in and share your experiences with us. Thank you so very much.
We're committed to serve.
Thank you
very
I
much.
know she's committed to serve.
Thank you so very much.
I know that.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
All right, for our viewers, it's never over on Close Flow. I waited for all your calls. I don't know what happened. Maybe we have technical issues trying to reach us here. But you can go to all our social media handles. We are going to upload this conversation there. So you can then send in your comments or your queries or your own questions. And we shall link you up with both Prof and, of course, our fellow engineers so that they can also respond to some of your queries. Until next week, it is bye from us.